everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and today I'm in Gary's garden, and he's going to zip through on a really windy day and show us what's going on in his garden. Go for it, Gary.
Okay, it's fall and a lot of my plants are still going. Some of them are finishing up, so I just thought I'd go through and point out a few things that are going on in my garden. So I've got my trellises here. I've got different things going on. If we head this way, I'll talk about some of my ponds. So I've had cucumbers growing here, they're finishing up. I still have mint in buckets. I've got some small taro on this side, and I've also got tomatillos in one of the buckets here. So this is a wicking system along here. I've got quite a few purple mustards. I've got a couple scattered in different totes. So I've got some sweet potato in here, and I've also started planting garlic. Some of this garlic's been in for a while, and these are some of my transplants that I put in the other day. In this pond here I've pretty much harvested a lot of things. I've got some Thai mint that's on the way out. That's a little bit more cold sensitive than some of the other mint, so that's dying back already. And I've also got my water chestnuts. I've done really well with that this year. I started off with a couple of plants that spread across this pond. I've harvested a few of them, and I've just dug my hand into the mud, pulled them out, and we've been using them for stir fry. On the other side here, I've got a few different things going on. I've got some buckets ready to go to set up more potatoes. I've got more mint in some pots. My apple cactus, my Peruvian apple cactus, is starting to put on new growth. So these cuttings should have set root. Down here was the old part, and up here the lime green is the new plant. So I believe that's set root. I need to divide that out and plant that in the ground. I also got a couple of new plants. I got some red fleshed dragon fruit. Most of our dragon fruit is white, so I haven't planted that out yet. I just got them in pots. My other dragon fruit, this is the white fleshed variety. That's really taken off this year. It's produced fruit for the first time, so I've got a few more fruit to harvest from that, and it's just taking up. I want to leave this as it is, kind of allow it to grow wild, and the aerial roots is running up the poles, and these poles get pretty hot during the day, especially over summer, and the plants seem to love it. So I'm just going to let this grow as a hedge. Stepping out here, I've got my strawberry papaya. It's a little cold sensitive too, but it's doing well. And then I've got my trellis with my shark fin melon. In the last garden tour, these were pretty small. I wasn't sure exactly how big they were going to get, but this plant is starting to go out. It's going to go back and get dormant. So it's set a good root system. So this will come back next year and produce a new plant. It's a perennial. And so this I'm happy with. Any old leaves, right now I've been just harvesting and using these for composting. So I've just been taking off the old leaves. I'm stripping this plant down. On the other side I've set up some strawberries. These may not stay here all the time. I'm just setting them up here for now because I've got the space, I may as well use it. I've set up some more totes. I've put compost in the bottom of them, and I'm getting them ready to be planted. So that's pretty much what's going on outside. So this whole area I'm working on right now, I'm going to change it up a little bit. So stepping back into my garden, some of the material I compost and some of it I put in my buckets. Like I said, this is the first year this dragon fruit's flowered and produced fruit, so I've been harvesting one at a time here. I've harvested a lot of it. So this is a south-facing wall of my garden. I've got the dragon fruit that I'll string along the fence there, and that'll provide a little bit of shade for the plants that I've got here. I've got sage. I've got eggplant here, it's starting to flower again. I've got a few different onion type plants in here. I've got garlic chives. I've got walking onions. I've got a few of those scattered around. I've even got a couple of apple tree seedlings that I've got in here. I don't really want them here, but they're okay for now. I can transplant them later on. I've got a lychee tomato. So this is a species of tomato, and it produces these little red fruits, and they're very tomato-like. They're a little bit different. I've been eating those. I've got a lot of thorns on them, so I think that's a protective thing for them. If you've got animals that might eat your tomatoes, other than insects, you know, you might want to try something like that if you're in a climate that you can grow it in. A lot of my plants along here are perennials. I put a couple of Peruvian apple cactus straight in the ground to get them started. I don't want them here, but later on, once they set root, I'll dig them up and plant them where I want them. So along this wall, I've got a few different things. I've got regular onions. I've got my rhubarb. Some people think you can't grow rhubarb in Southern California, but you can. There used to be commercial crops of it grown here, but not so much anymore. They don't go dormant over winter. They keep growing, and in the hot summers you just want to give them some shade, otherwise their big leaves will burn. Some of my blackberries starting to grow from the other side of the fence into my garden. I need to trim this back. Plants like this I want to keep out of my main garden. And that pretty much covers this wall. A lot of it's fairly open right now. I've got a lot of different brassicas growing along here. This is that one that you grew from seed. It's a hybrid of some sort.
Yeah, it's probably dinosaur. I think it's the three-way. The different seeds came up. I think it's collared, dinosaur kale, and I used to have purple, which I thought was the dazzling blue kale, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, so that
Definitely a hybrid.
That I transferred down here. A lot of my taller brassicas, like this and the tree collards, I like to suspend them from the rafters. They do need support because they get tall, and if you don't support them, they'll just ramble along the ground. Like this green tree collard here didn't get supported, so it's come up over there and it's just rambled across the ground here. A lot of the tree collard leaves I've been harvesting, and I've been using that for my compost. I've got my artichokes are starting to come back. I cut them back to ground level, and I've got a couple of those scattered through. So they'll grow over winter and then they'll produce in the spring. I didn't have enough room to plant all of my shark fin melon in the main garden. I don't want this growing in my garden because it rambles everywhere. And
I think I see one way down there.
yeah, there's one fruit
See
way
if I
down
can
there.
zoom in. Oh my goodness! Did you know it was there?
Yeah, I knew that one's there, and there's another one right here in this tote. So it's taken off from here, and everywhere it hits the ground, it sets root. So this is a perennial plant. It'll come back next year. And it also sets root at the leaf nodes wherever it touches the ground. So this would be a good plant if you have squash, vine borer, or whatever that pest is called.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, this might be a plant that would be useful to you if you can grow it in your zone, because if the vine borer attacks it here, you've still got roots all along the plant that'll help it grow.
I never thought about that. That's absolutely correct, because if it kills some of the plant, you still have the plant will continue to grow. And we haven't tasted it yet, but it's supposed to taste like zucchini.
I cooked this tiny little one up in the Instant Pot, but I haven't harvested one of the large ones yet. And that did taste very zucchini-like. It was very plain.
Did I get any?
You took some, yeah?
I don't remember.
You tasted some. I ate it. I ate most
Okay,
of
you
it.
ate it, so you cooked it for yourself. All right, well, that's good to know. That's actually very good. That might be a plant to grow instead, because the plant will continue to grow even if it gets cooked. I don't know if anybody can hear this, but your yard just filled up with bush tits. Can you hear them? Well, you
Yeah,
probably can't hear them.
I
I
can
see them. There's one
see
right.
'em and hear them.
Yeah, he just flew off.
So they're moving through. I've got a few insects in here and they come in and finish them off. So I've got an ube plant growing here. I've got a sweet potato everywhere. I've been harvesting the sweet potato and by clearing it. I should correct myself. I've been harvesting the leaves. I haven't harvested any tubers yet, but there should be tubers under the ground already somewhere. I know there are some in other parts of the garden. Okay, here's one here. So this is a purple fleshed variety. So that's a purple one. So I've got these all over the place. I know in the past people asked whether we just eat the leaves or eat the tubers. Well, yeah, I've got a bunch of tubers I want to harvest.
That's a huge field.
In here it's a huge field, but there's actually some kiddie pools in the middle of that. So it's grown all over the kiddie pools. Over winter it will die back and I'll be able to clear it out a little bit more and get to my kiddie pools. And this is my oldest hummingbird tree, and it's starting to send side branches off. So it went straight up to the rafters before it started putting side growth on. So now this should be well established. It should survive over winter and come back pretty good next year. I'm pretty confident on that.
You got a tree here? That's a tree.
Yeah, that's a nectarine that came up. I'm going to leave it for now. It shouldn't be too invasive. The roots shouldn't really be much of a problem in my garden. And I might leave it for now. I might, at some point, if it's going to be a problem, I might dig it out and plant it somewhere else. And I've got my lemon verbena. I made a comment in, I think, the last video that food forests don't work that well here. What I meant was figs don't work well in a garden like this because their roots are invasive. But if you have other trees that don't have invasive roots, they do pretty good. My pepinos are starting to flower again. I still have a few fruit scattered through here. Oh yeah, there's some here that really should be harvested or at least protected. I like to harvest them when they're very ripe. I've got passion fruit and gack fruit growing along the centre here. So those are two vines that I'm going to have growing here. The gack fruit hasn't flowered yet. They come in male and female plants, so I'm not sure whether I've got both, but I've got two plants and hopefully I'll have one of each. And this is my chia that I planted. Supposedly it can grow up to 8 foot, and this is probably 12 foot tall, so it's been supported by the mesh here. And working around here, these are more pepinos. The bed along here, I've just got a lot of pepino melons, pepino dolce. I did have these sweet potatoes trellised up along the chain link fence. I used that as a screen, and I see there's some ready to be harvested here. Actually, they're starting to grow again. And these are the orange fleshed varieties. I should dig some of these up and cure them. Maybe they'll be ready for Thanksgiving. I'm not sure. It might be too late to dig them up for Thanksgiving. I don't mind eating them if they're not super sweet. I've got my purple stardust ice plant here. So this is a nice plant that's edible. A lot of ice plants aren't, but you can eat this. It tastes very much like lettuce. Got more onions in there. I've got a lot of cannas growing. I have Canna edulis, the edible cannas, and they produce the tiny little flowers that the hummingbirds like. So I like my cannas. Not 100% sure what this is, but it's flowering.
It looks like cucumber.
It's probably cucumber. I just don't remember what I planted in here.
Did it come up on its own, or you actually planted it?
I actually planted it.
It's probably a cucumber of some sort.
Yeah, I planted so many of them that I've forgotten where I've planted them all, but it's probably cucumber. And my garlic here has come up. I need to separate these off. So I'm using these as starts. So what I'll do is I'll dig the bunch out, separate them off and plant them in other totes. But I've got these in wicking beds and they did well over summer and now they're coming back. I've got another shark fin melon. I've got this one planted in a tote over there in one of the wicking ponds, and that's just sprawled all over here. I've harvested all of my scarlet runner beans, and it's just a matter to clear the vines off. It's just a matter of just rolling it off the rebar, and then I can discard this and compost it. So that's easy to clean up. And at the end of the season you've got a nice clean trellis that you can either hang back or put to one side. I haven't harvested any of the cannas yet. This year I might harvest from this area here because it has overpowered my pond. This is my original pond tucked away in there. This is my yellow turmeric. This year I didn't get it to flower. We didn't really get warm enough and we didn't get any rain really over summer. If we get rain over summer that tends to push them into flowering. So this year they didn't flower. They should have because they did flower last year. And back here are my bananas. Got a lot of different varieties. My ginger here didn't do really well because it's too shady for it. It's got overshadowed by the cannas. So next year I might move it into another spot. So these bananas here are overripe. I have a tendency to let them ripen too long. So I've just been harvesting from the top down and I just break a few off and bring them into the house. So I'm not really harvesting the bunch all at once, but this definitely needs to be harvested. So I bring them in like that as I need them, or as we use them. This variety of banana here is the Goldfinger. That's my favourite because you can harvest it at just above head height. Some of the taller ones you have to lop them down to harvest them, so I can just lop it off here, take the bunch down, and then after I've done that I can drop the trunk. Some of my other banana varieties didn't do well this year. This one here was my favourite. This is a manzano. It has bananas that are apple-like in flavour, and I don't think we were consistently warm enough for it to set fruit really well. So I didn't get any fruit off this year. I might cut it way back and start with some of the smaller suckers. And this variety you definitely need to chop down to harvest. But the Goldfingers got another bunch here that are going, this bunch will be ready in a couple of months, and it's within reach, so I don't have to sort of, if I want to leave it on the plant, I can just harvest it as I want it, or I can just easily lop the bunch down. My ubes haven't gone quite dormant yet. They've stopped putting on a lot of new growth. So I'm looking at the tips and they're starting to go brown. So I should be able to harvest these in the next couple of months.
I see you've got Swiss chard growing. You've got a big old Swiss chard.
Yeah, I've removed a lot of my Swiss chard out. After we get some rain, it should come back. So the seeds will be popping up everywhere. I've cleared the ground of most of it. This is the season where I let the sweet potatoes run wild, but in the early spring, it's Swiss chard that's running wild and the sweet potatoes have died back. Got a lot of fennel, wild fennel just growing in different places. I use that for tea. This is my nursery pond. I've just got sifted wood chips in here. So that's sifted wood chips. It's broken down. It almost looks like humus now. But I break things off. Like this was a purple tree collard that I found a branch was broken from the wind. So I just pushed that in there. And then once it sets root, I can just take it out. So I've got a few different plants that I've stuck in there that I've planted as cuttings.
Oh, what is this big plant right here with the big leaves?
These?
Yeah.
This is my yacon.
That is what?
Yacon.
Yacon. This, the one with the big leaves?
Yeah.
Oh, they look like sunflower.
Yeah, they're related to the sunflower. They've got these little sunflower flowers that are died back. So they've died back. And what you eat on these are the edible tubers. So this has got tubers down here that you harvest. They have a storage tuber and they have other tubers. So I think this is the tuber that you eat. Yeah, this is a good prebiotic plant. It actually looks like it's going to sprout again, because that looks like a growth node. And these are my carrots that I grew in my wicking bed. So I've taken them out to let them dry a bit. So I've got a few different varieties of carrots. I still have a few cucumbers to harvest. Some of them are starting to go yellow, but even if they're a little bit yellow, they still are good enough to eat. They're still sweet. Got one, I think that's a Kajari melon left. I'm going to strip all this down. Got some sort of bean that I planted. I can't remember the variety, but that's starting to come up. So I'll strip off the cucumber and let the bean grow up the trellis here. This was a sweet potato that I had in the wicking bed. I took this out and I planted more garlic. I pointed out that I get clusters of garlic starts, so I set them up in a wicking bed in a tote, and when they come up I just separated them off and I planted them in a wicking tub like so. This tote has holes drilled down the bottom, so I drilled the holes down the bottom here, maybe 2 inches from the bottom, and that allows water to go in, and then the water wicks up to where the roots are growing and I don't have to water them. My Malabar spinach over here, I've got a lot of that growing now. It self-seeds, produces the little purple little berries, and they drop seeds everywhere. I don't have to plant that again. It's a perennial plant and it doesn't really die back in our climate zone. We're in zone 10A. And I've got more dragon fruit growing here. I've got a couple of varieties. I've got one that's called Purple Haze. I've got that marked just with a little purple pink label. Or they're not actually labels, it's electrical wiring. So I've wrapped that around that, and that's how I've got it trellised up. So I want this to grow up around this pole. Everywhere there's a little join, I can wrap some electrical wire around and it doesn't damage the plant. And what the plant will do, it'll send out its aerial roots and it'll wrap around the pole, and that will support the plant as it goes up. But I think we've pretty much ended up where we began. The only thing I haven't done is along here, I suppose. So I've got African potato mint that's flowering. So this attracts the bees. So because it's in the mint family, usually there's a lot of bees working this. I've got some of the purslane growing here. The purslane over against the wall is starting to die off. It's a little cooler here, so this is staying green. Eventually all of this will be harvested and I'll plant something else in here over winter. And that's pretty much it. That's my garden.
Well, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff we missed because I can already see the cobra peppers. I don't know if we even talked about, or you've got, is this rocket? I'm not even sure what.
Yeah, this is wild rocket.
Wild rocket?
So this is actually an edible weed, and it tastes like rocket, regular arugula, but it's a lot hotter. It's more spicy. So I allow some of this to grow, and I like eating that. I won't eat it on camera, but yes. And I've got the black cobra pepper that's turning red. So it goes from, what is it, green to black to red?
Yeah. Beautiful tree. Beautiful plant, I should say. But boy, are they hot. You even put one in a meal. Oh, you got tons of little green ones in there, I think.
Yeah, this is doing quite well since I moved it down here, out of your garden.
Well, that one was dying in my garden, and I don't know why. So that's why I said take it, see if it does better here.
Yeah, your other ones do well, but this particular one wasn't doing so well, so I figured I might as well try it.
It's kind of funny. That's like plant number 3. I bought one container at the 99 cents. There were 3 plants in there, and that was a puny little plant, only like an inch tall. And that one grew real slow. The second one my son-in-law got, and I kept the third one, which was the biggest one. Right, I can't think of anything else.
No.
I mean, there's tons of stuff, and we can walk through. It's been windy and hot, and so...
I even notice, every time I come down here, I notice something else. I didn't even know I had these green tomatillos.
Oh, look how big they
and
are,
they're
nice.
a big size. I usually grow purple ones, so this must have come up from seeds, from a seed that fell in here.
I'm sure there's a ton
Okay.
of stuff you forgot. But this is beautiful. And like I said, it's hot, and I can tell my camera is getting hot because it's going light and dark. Well, anything else you want to say?
No, that's pretty much it. I think I've said what I needed to say. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you stayed this long and I didn't bore you too much, and you liked it, please give a thumbs up. And if you want to see other videos that we put up, check out our channel. That's Robbie and Gary Gardening Easy. And there are other videos on our garden tours, the different gardens. If you go back and look at the older videos, you'll see how much it's changed. And a garden constantly changes. So with that, thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye.
Bye-bye.